My name is Charlie Rahman, 31 years old. Last Saturday, I attended my brother Ben's wedding. The moment my mother stepped into the luxurious reception hall, Victoria's mother loudly placed a name tag on her chest and announced in front of 200 guests, "Everyone, this is Joyce Rahman, the uneducated tenant living in Ashford property number 47. We've been kind enough to let her stay for free all these years." The entire room erupted in laughter. My mother, the woman who raised 2 children alone after my father died paying for that house, stood there trembling, head lowered, tears filling her eyes. She turned to leave. I grabbed her hand and said firmly, "Mom, we're going home right now." What the Ashfords didn't know was that for the past 3 months, I had been quietly building a federal fraud case against them. They humiliated my mother on Saturday. By Monday, I was going to reclaim everything they stole and bring down their entire empire. Before I tell you what happened next, if this story already makes your blood boil, please hit like and subscribe. Only if it earns it. Drop your city and local time in the comments. I want to know who is watching this with me right now. Now, let me take you back to that Saturday. To understand how we ended up here, you need to know about a promise made 22 years ago, April 15, 2004. I was 9 years old. My father, James Rahman, left for his construction job at 5:30 that morning. I remember it clearly because I was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table doing homework I had forgotten the night before. He poured coffee into his thermos. My mother, Joyce, was preparing his lunch, turkey sandwich, apple, the same thing every day. She was 34 then, still young, her hands not yet roughened from the years of labor that would follow later. 5 more years of payments, Joyce, Dad said, kissing her forehead. Then this house is ours. No more landlords, no more rent. Something real for our kids. Mom smiled. Don't work too hard, honey. You've been doing double shifts all week. I'm fine. He knelt down, ruffled my hair, then walked over to where my brother Ben was still sleeping on the couch. 12 years old, lanky. Ben had given up his bedroom when I was born. Dad gently touched his shoulder. He didn't wake him. "I'll bring pizza for dinner," Dad said. He picked up his lunchbox. Steel-toed boots by the door, worn but clean. The mortgage statement was on the fridge held by a magnet shaped like Massachusetts. $185,000 purchase price. $74,000 remaining. We were 60% there. He never came home. At the hospital, the doctor's words still echo in my mind like a nightmare. We did everything we could. Mom collapsed against the cold tile wall, her sobs echoing through the sterile hallway. I was only 9, gripping Ben's hand so tightly my nails left marks on his skin. The Union brothers stayed with us for hours, their steel-toed boots leaving dirt on the hospital floor. 4 weeks after, our small house in Dorchester was filled with aluminum trays of lasagna and tuna casserole from the church ladies at St. Augustine's. Some nights, I would wake up hearing Mom crying in the bathroom with the water running, so we wouldn't hear her. Ben started sleeping on the couch again, giving me the only bedroom. At 12 years old, he was already trying to be the man of the house. That house on Lexington Street stopped being just a building. It became Dad's final promise, the one we had to protect at all costs. At 2:15 p.m., the school secretary pulled me out of class. My mother was already there, face pale, hands trembling. The hospital had called, brain hemorrhage, massive. He collapsed at the construction site at 11:47 a.m., dead on arrival. I didn't understand what cerebral hemorrhage meant. I kept asking when we could see him. Mom just held me and cried. At the funeral, my father's Union brothers formed an honor guard. They had worked with him for 8 years. One of them, an older man named Tommy, told my mother, "James was the best of us. Worked harder than anyone, always talking about that house, about your kids." The day after the funeral, an envelope arrived from the mortgage company. Payment due in 30 days, $1,247. Mom stared at that number for a long time. "We'll figure it out," she said. And she did, by working 3 jobs. Full-time housekeeping at the Marriott downtown, evening shifts at CVS, weekend catering gigs. She left the house at 6 o'clock in the morning and returned at 11 at night. Ben learned to cook mac and cheese. I did my homework in the Marriott break room while Mom vacuumed conference rooms. The mortgage statement stayed on the fridge, Payment amount highlighted in red every month, $1,247. We paid it every single month. By the time I turned 13, I could cook Mom's rice and lentils perfectly while standing on a kitchen stool. Ben worked weekends at the auto body shop down the street, coming home with grease-stained hands and quietly slipping his $20 paycheck into Mom's purse. Winters were harsh. We kept the thermostat at 62 degrees to save money, wearing sweaters and socks inside the house. When the city raised property taxes in 2012, Mom took on a fourth job sewing alterations for neighbors until midnight, her fingers swollen and cracked by morning. She kept every receipt in that worn folder labeled House, Dad's Dream, treating it like a sacred record. The framed paid-in-full letter hung above the kitchen table like a medal of honor. That version of my mother, the quiet, unbreakable woman who buried her husband and still carried his dream forward with calloused hands and relentless will, the one the Ashfords would never understand. Mom kept the receipts in a folder labeled House Dad's Dream. By 2007, we had paid off 60% of what remained. That March, Mom made the final payment. The bank sent a letter, paid in full. She framed it and hung it above the kitchen table. Your father would be proud, she told us. For 6 months, we believed it. We believed the house at 127 Lexington Street, Dorchester, was ours. Then September 2008 arrived, and we lost everything. The financial crisis hit everyone, but it hit working families harder. Ben had just been accepted to community college. He needed $18,000 for 2 years of tuition. Mom had $3,200 saved. That's when Gerald Ashford made his offer. Mom met him at church, St. Augustine's in Dorchester. He was polite, well-dressed, drove a nice car. He had helped other families in the parish with financial advice. When Mom mentioned Ben's college acceptance, Gerald pulled her aside after Mass. Joyce, congratulations. That's wonderful. Have you thought about how you'll cover tuition? I'm working on it, Mom said. You have equity in your home, don't you? The house is worth maybe $180,000. You own it free and clear. I can help you access that equity. Take out maybe $20,000 for Ben's education. Mom looked unsure. I don't understand. We just finished paying. It's called a cash-out refinance. Very common. You refinance the mortgage at current value and take the difference in cash. My company handles these all the time. He handed her a business card, Ashford Development, LLC. Building Boston's future. I'll even waive the fees for you, Gerald added, as a friend. A week later, Gerald came to our house. He spread papers across the kitchen table. 27 pages of dense legal text. Mom had immigrated from Bangladesh at 19 and married my father at 20. Her English was fine for everyday life, but legal language was something else entirely. This just means you understand the terms, Gerald said, tapping the page. This confirms the property address. And this final section authorizes the transfer. I mean the loan disbursement. Transfer? Mom asked. Transfer of funds. The $20,000 going into your account. Standard wording. She signed. Her signature was hesitant, uneven. The notary, a woman named Jennifer Callahan, stamped the documents. I would later learn Jennifer worked for Gerald. The notary wasn't independent. It was staged. Gerald handed her a check for $20,000. Thank you, Mom said. This means everything for Ben. Happy to help, Gerald replied. On page 19 of those 27 pages, hidden inside a section titled Property Rights Agreement, there was a clause that changed everything. Grantaire agrees to life estate arrangement whereby ownership of property located at 127 Lexington Street transfers to Ashford Holdings, Trust Number 47, with Grantaire retaining occupancy rights until death. My mother had signed away her house. She just didn't know it. Gerald never explained it. He called it a refinance. It was theft. The money went to Ben's tuition. He graduated 2 years later with an associate degree in business. By then, the house was already gone. For the next 18 years, Mom lived at 127 Lexington Street believing it was hers. She paid property taxes every year, $4,200 annually, $76,400 total over 18 years. She paid for a new roof in 2015, $8,000. A furnace in 2019, $5,500. She maintained that house like it belonged to her, because she believed it did. The tax bills always arrived addressed to Joyce Rahman, Life Estate Beneficiary, Ashford Holdings, Trust Number 47. She thought Life Estate Beneficiary meant homeowner under a refinance program. I was a teenager when I asked her once why the bills mentioned Ashford Holdings Trust. "I don't know, honey," she said. "Maybe that's just how they process refinancing. The county probably has old records." "Want me to call them?" "No, don't bother them. As long as it's paid, it's fine." In 2020, Boston announced rezoning for Dorchester under a transit-oriented development plan. Property values near the new Red Line extension surged. Our neighborhood, once ignored and working class, suddenly became prime real estate. 127 Lexington Street jumped from $180,000 to $680,000 in 5 years. Gerald Ashford watched his investment multiply. That same year, my brother Ben started dating a woman named Victoria. He didn't mention her last name for 6 months. When he finally did, Mom reacted casually. "Ash like Mr. Ashford from church?" "Yeah," Ben said. "Small world, right?" Mom smiled. What a small world. She had no idea how small it really was. She had no idea Victoria's father was the man who had taken her house 12 years earlier. She had no idea the family her son was joining owned the deed to the home she believed was still hers. And Ben, he had no idea either. Not yet. I became a paralegal because of my mother. After Dad died, I watched her struggle with documents she couldn't understand. Insurance forms, probate papers, financial aid applications. She would sit at the kitchen table rereading the same paragraph again and again, trying to decode language that felt designed to exclude her. "I wish I understood this," she would say. So I decided I would become the person who did. I studied political science at UMass Boston on a full scholarship, then earned my paralegal certification. By 25, I joined the Legal Aid Society of Greater Boston. Housing cases, tenant disputes, predatory lending, deed fraud. By 30, I had seen dozens of scams. I had helped families fight evictions and stolen titles. I never imagined my own mother was one of them. December 12, 2025. Mom called me from work. "Charlie, honey, can you help me with something? I want to apply for a reverse mortgage. The roof is sagging again and the plumbing is old. I need about $25,000 for repairs." "A reverse mortgage?" I said. "Mom, are you sure?" "Those can." I know, she cut in. "But I'm 56. The house is paid off. I've been reading about it. I just need help with the application." "Okay. I'll need to pull the title records first." It's standard. That evening I logged into the Suffolk County Registry of Deeds and searched 127 Lexington Street, Dorchester. The result loaded. Owner, Ashford Holdings, Trust Number 47. I stared. Recorded, September 23, 2008. Document type, Life Estate Deed in lieu of foreclosure refinancing. I opened the scanned files. Found her signature. Then I saw it, page 19. The transfer clause. "Oh my God," I whispered. I called her immediately. "Mom, when did you refinance the house?" 2008 for Ben's College. "Why? Who handled it?" "Mr. Ashford. Gerald Ashford from church. He helped us." My hands went cold. "Mom, this isn't a mortgage. This is a deed transfer." Silence. "What does that mean?" she asked. "Can you find all the paperwork from 2008? Everything he gave you?" She went to the basement and returned with a cardboard box labeled Important Papers 2008. I drove straight to Dorchester that night. I sat at the same kitchen table where she had signed those documents 17 years earlier. I read every page. The promissory note, the falsified disclosures, the hidden deed transfer buried on page 19. Jennifer Callahan's notary stamp. A supposed independent notary who, in reality, worked for Gerald's company. "Mom," I said carefully, "this says you transferred ownership of the house to Ashford Holdings Trust. You have a life estate. You can live here, but you don't own it." Her face drained of color. "But I've been paying property taxes." "Exactly. You've been maintaining someone else's property for 17 years. She couldn't finish her next question. I opened Zillow. "How much do you think the house is worth?" Maybe $250,000. The number loaded. $748,000. She went completely still. Charlie, she whispered. Did I lose my house? I looked at her. The woman who worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat. The framed, paid in full letter above her now feeling like a cruel joke. Not if I can help it, I said. That night I didn't sleep. And the next morning I started digging. January became a case file. I pulled records on Ashford Holdings Trust. 16 properties. Not one. 16. All signed between 2007 and 2010. All life estate transfers. All in immigrant-heavy neighborhoods. Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan, East Boston. Every pattern matched. Elderly homeowners. Low English proficiency. Age 55 and above. Same structure. Same trust. Same outcome. None of them knew they had lost their homes. I started making calls. Mrs. Torres, my name is Charlie Rahman. I'm a paralegal with Legal Aid. I believe you may have been the victim of deed fraud involving Ashford Development. The first woman hung up. The second sounded wary. The third broke down crying. I thought I was alone, she said. Mr. Ashford said he was helping me. By the end of January, I had identified 12 more families. 9 were willing to talk. 6 were willing to fight. I spent long evenings at kitchen tables just like ours. Roxbury, Mattapan, East Boston, Hyde Park. Mrs. Torres, a 68-year-old Puerto Rican widow, cried as she showed me this same 27-page packet Gerald had used on my mother. Mr. Nguyen, a Vietnamese grandfather, kept apologizing in broken English for losing his family home. A Haitian grandmother proudly showed me a newly paved driveway from 2014, believing she had improved her own property. Every story followed the same pattern. Gerald at church. Friendly. Well-dressed. Offering help during the financial crisis. Then burying the deed transfer on page 19. I recorded hours of interviews, built spreadsheets of forged notary stamps, and calculated the stolen equity down to the dollar. My supervisor, Maria Sullivan, warned me I was getting too emotionally attached. I told her this wasn't just another case. This was personal. On February 1st, I called the FBI. The Boston field office routed me to Agent Rebecca Torres, Financial Crimes Unit. Ms. Rahman, she said, we've been investigating mortgage fraud rings in Greater Boston for 8 months. What can you tell me about Ashford Development? I told her everything, the 16 properties, the pattern, and roughly $8.2 million in stolen equity. We've had Ashford Development under surveillance since June 2025, she replied. But we needed victims willing to come forward. Can you bring your documentation to our office? On March 5th, I sat in a conference room at the FBI's Chelsea field office. I brought my mother's deed, a full comparison of all 16 properties, financial breakdowns, and timelines. Agent Torres reviewed everything, then looked up. Mr. Rahman, we already have draft warrants. Your mother's case and the other 12 you identified are exactly what we needed. This is the breakthrough, she continued. With your cooperation, we can finalize and execute within 6 weeks. What do you need from me? Sworn statements from every victim, full damage reports, and patience. When we move, it will be big. Federal charges. Media attention. Are you and your mother ready for that? I thought about the name tag waiting for Mom at Ben's wedding. I had already seen the seating chart. Table 18, back corner, near venue staff. We're ready, I said. On April 9th, 3 days before Ben's wedding, I filed in Suffolk Superior Court. Case number 26 CV 10881. Rahman vs. Ashford Development, LLC. I didn't just file a claim. I filed a temporary restraining order to freeze all 16 properties under Ashford Holdings Trust. My supervising attorney, Maria Sullivan, looked at me across the desk. Charlie filing 3 days before his daughter's wedding is aggressive. He's planning to sell my mother's house right after, I said. If I wait, we lose leverage. She nodded slowly. All right, but be ready. This will explode. The judge granted the TRO on April 11th. Immediate effect. All property sales frozen. Process servers delivered notices on April 13th, the day after the wedding, but I already knew what Saturday would bring. I knew about the seating chart. I knew about the name tag. And I was ready. I should explain Ben and Victoria. They met in January 2020 at a networking event. Ben was 28, working in marketing at a startup, earning $54,000 a year. Victoria was 26, operations director at her father's company, earning $120,000. Ben was instantly drawn to her. She's incredible. Charlie, smart, ambitious, and her family, they're very successful. What's the company? I asked. Ashford Development. I was 25 then, new at legal aid, buried in cases. The name didn't register. Small world, I said. By June they were serious. By December, Ben had met Gerald and Linda. By March 2021, Victoria started talking about marriage. Ben never mentioned that Gerald had once helped our family refinance. To him, it was just a legal transaction. He had no idea what it really was. Not until November 18, 2023. Ben was invited to Thanksgiving dinner at the Ashford home, an early gathering before the holiday. Gerald, Linda, Victoria, and Ben sat over wine and appetizers. Gerald talked business casually. Next year, we're planning a major development push. Dorchester's rezoning opened a lot of doors. We own several properties there. Oh, Ben said politely. What kind? Small residential units. We acquired them during the 2008 crisis. Families needed liquidity. We helped them unlock equity. Now they're worth 10-20 times more. That's smart, Ben said. Gerald smiled. One of them is on Lexington Street, 127 Lexington, actually. Funny coincidence. That's your mother's house, isn't it? Ben's fork stopped midair. What? Oh, she didn't tell you? I handled her refinance in 2008. For your college, I believe. Gerald took a slow sip of wine. Technically, it's in our trust now. She just has a life estate. She can stay as long as she lives. When we sell, probably next fall, we'll help her transition into senior housing. Very reasonable options. Victoria squeezed Ben's hand under the table. Dad, maybe not now. What? It's good news, Gerald said lightly. The property is worth about $850,000 now. We made a smart investment. And your mother still has a home. Everyone wins. Ben got up and went to the bathroom. He threw up. When he came back, Gerald was already showing Victoria and Linda property comparisons on his tablet. They were planning it like a business deal. Ben said nothing. He drove home in silence and sat outside our mother's house for an hour. The lights were on. He could see her in the kitchen, making dinner alone. He didn't go inside. He didn't call me. He didn't tell Mom. Instead, he convinced himself of something easier, that Gerald was right, that Mom would be fine in senior housing, that the house was too much responsibility, that it was just business. He needed to believe it. Because believing it meant he didn't have to lose Victoria. Later, I learned from a former coworker that Ben had been having nightmares for months. He would wake up whispering, "It's just business," like a mantra. Some nights, he drove past our house and sat in his car for 20 minutes, staring at the warm kitchen light where Mom sat alone. But every time guilt rose, Victoria would show him luxury condos, or remind him of the VP role waiting after the wedding. And slowly, comfort won over truth. In March 2024, Victoria proposed a modern twist. She got down on one knee at the public garden and presented a ring. Ben said yes. Gerald offered him a VP position, Vice President of Marketing, $165,000 a year, starting right after the wedding. Ben told Mom about the engagement. She cried with joy. "Your father would be so proud," she said softly. The wedding was scheduled for April 12, 2026. By then, Ben had known the truth about Mom's house for 2.5 years, and he had said nothing. March faded into April. The wedding drew closer. I was finalizing FBI documentation. Agent Torres called weekly with updates. The warrants were ready. They were only waiting for my signal. I could have told Ben. I could have pulled him aside, explained everything, given him a chance to do the right thing. But I needed to know. I needed to see whether my brother would protect our mother, or whether he had already chosen his new family. On April 1st, I nearly didn't file the TTRO. I sat in my apartment with the papers printed but not signed. I called Maria Sullivan. If I file this, I said, Ben's marriage is over. His job offer disappears. Is it worth destroying my brother's life? Is it worth letting your mother live as a tenant in her own home? Maria asked. That evening I went to Mom's house. She was cooking dinner, rice and lentils, the same meal she had made for years. Charlie honeys it. I made extra. We ate together. She talked about the wedding, about Ben, about how happy she was he'd found someone. Then she said quietly, You know what your father used to say? I looked up. If you see wrong and do nothing, you become part of it. She didn't know about the TTRO. She didn't know what I was preparing. But her words made the decision for me. April 9th, 4:47 p.m. I filed. The clerk stamped the papers. Will there be media attention on this case? I thought of 16 stolen homes, $8 million, 13 families. Yes, I said. There will be. Hashtag April 12th, 2026, wedding day. I helped Mom get ready. She wore a dress from Macy's clearance. Navy blue. Simple. $78. She did her makeup in the bathroom mirror. The same mirror from 2004 when Dad was still alive. Do I look okay? She asked. I want Ben to be proud. You look beautiful, Mom. She touched Dad's photo on the dresser. I wish you were here, honey. We drove to the Seaport District. Glass towers, luxury cars, designer gowns. Mom looked uneasy. Charlie, are you sure I'm dressed okay? I squeezed her hand. Mom, you're perfect. The ceremony began at 2 p.m. Waterfront Chapel. 200 guests. A string quartet playing Pachelbel's canon. White orchids everywhere. I later learned the floral budget alone was $15,000. Mom was seated in the third row, not the front. Family seating is immediate family only, the usher said. You sat beside her. Ben and Victoria's vows were beautiful, traditional, polished, emotional. Ben spoke about building a future. Victoria thanked my parents for shaping their journey. Neither of them mentioned Mom. Not once. After the ceremony, we moved into the reception hall, Ashford Development Headquarters ballroom. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston Harbor. Crystal chandeliers. Ice sculptures. The Ashford logo projected across napkins, champagne glasses, even the walls. The same logo that appeared on my mother's stolen deed. We reached the registration table. A young woman in an Ashford polo smiled. Name: Joyce Rahman. Mother of the groom. She checked the list. Yes, here you are. She reached for a name tag. Then Linda Ashford appeared. 59. Elegant. Champagne-colored gown. Old Boston money wrapped in new wealth. She had been waiting. Joyce, Linda said loudly. Heads turned. She took the name tag from the receptionist, walked directly to my mother, and in front of everyone, guests, photographers, servers, pinned it onto her chest. Everyone, Linda announced. This is Joyce Rahman, the uneducated tenant living in Ashford property number 47. We've been kind enough to let her stay for free all these years. Some people laughed. Not all, maybe half. Some looked uncomfortable. A few looked away. But the sound carried. My mother stood frozen, trembling. The name tag read, Joyce Rahman, former household staff/tenant, Ashford property #47. She looked at it. Then she looked at Ben, 20 feet away with Victoria. He had seen everything. And he looked away. Mom's eyes filled. She turned toward the exit. I took her hand. Mom, I said firmly, loud enough for everyone nearby. We're going home right now. Linda smiled. Oh, Joyce, don't be dramatic. It's just a name tag. I looked at her. Then at Gerald, who had just arrived, champagne in hand. Mrs. Ashford, I said calmly. My mother has never worked for your family. She has never lived for free. She has paid $76,400 in property taxes over 18 years and over $41,000 in maintenance. And you already know that. Linda's smile tightened. I'm sure I don't know what you mean. You will, I said. Come on, Mom. We turned toward the door. Ben stepped in front of us. Mom, where are you going? We haven't even cut the cake. Benjamin, Mom said quietly. I'm tired. I think I'll go home. But Mom, you can't leave. People will notice. People already noticed, I said. They noticed when she was seated with staff. They noticed when your in-laws introduced her like that. Charlie, Ben started. Linda was just. He stopped. Just what? I asked. Being nice. I pulled the name tag from my pocket, the one I had taken from my mother's chest. I held it up. Read it, I said. Ben went pale. Charlie, please, not here. Then where, Ben? When were you going to tell her your father-in-law stole our house? Mom gasped. Victoria stepped forward, shaken. Charlie, what are you talking about? Ask your father, I said. Ask him about Ashford Holdings Trust. Ask him about the fake refinance. Ask him about the 16 families. Gerald's smile disappeared completely. Young lady, you're confused. I'm a paralegal, I said. I specialize in housing fraud. I'm not confused. I turned to Ben. Did you know? Silence. Ben, I repeated. Answer me. Did you know? Nothing. November 2023, I said. Thanksgiving dinner. That's when you learned. Right. Ben finally looked at Mom. His eyes were wet. Mom. I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you. Gerald said he'd help you relocate. Senior housing. Nice places. I thought. You thought what? Mom whispered. I thought it would be better. The house is too big. Too expensive. This way you wouldn't worry. Mom's voice broke. Better for me? Her hands trembled. Benjamin, that house. Your father died for that house. Dad's been gone for 22 years. Mom, this is about the living. This is about my future. The words hung in the air like a blade. I took Mom's arm. Come on. We're leaving. If you leave, Ben said urgently, you're ruining my wedding. I looked at my brother, the man who chose a career and a marriage over his own mother. No, Ben, I said quietly. You ruined it the day you chose silence. We walked out. Behind us, I heard Victoria asking Ben what was happening. Gerald's voice tried to smooth it over. Misunderstanding. Linda's voice cut through sharply. Let them go. Good riddance. The door shut behind us. We sat in my car inside the parking garage. Mom stared forward, the crumpled name tag still in her hand. Charlie, she whispered at last, did I lose my house? I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. Not yet, Mom. Not if I can stop it. I showed her my phone. The TTRO confirmation. Monday morning it takes effect. The court freezes everything. Gerald can't sell your house. He can't touch any of the 16 properties. 16, she asked faintly. You're not the only one, Mom. 12 other families. I found them. We're moving together. Will we win? I looked at her. Yes. How do you know? Because I have the paperwork. I have the forged notary. I have the pattern. And I have the FBI. Her head snapped toward me. The FBI? They've been investigating Ashford Development since last June. Wire fraud. Mail fraud. Elder exploitation. RICO. Her hands trembled. And Ben. I was silent for a moment. Ben made his choice. We drove back to Dorchester without speaking and stopped outside 127 Lexington Street. The house was dark. The same house where Dad kissed us goodbye in 2004. The same house Mom worked 3 jobs to save. The same house that now legally belonged to the man who had humiliated her. Inside, Mom sat at the kitchen table, the same table where she signed Gerald's papers 18 years ago. I made tea. The kettle's whistle filled the silence. The clock read 7:47 p.m. The wedding was serving dinner. What happens Monday? She asked. I spread the documents on the table. The TTRO freezes everything. The FBI executes search warrants. Agent Torres said they'll hit Ashford Development headquarters while court is in session. Will they arrest Gerald? Not immediately. They'll seize computers, files, records. The arrest comes after the full case is built. And us. Our civil case moves separately. That can move faster. How fast? Months. Maybe a year. But the property is locked now. He can't sell anything. Mom looked at the framed paid in full letter on the wall. Your father worked 10 years to pay this off, she said quietly. I know. He never saw it finished. No. But you did. You kept every promise after he died. She went silent for a long time. Then she asked, "What did your father say about promises?" I smiled through the weight in my chest. "He said a Rahman keeps their word." She nodded slowly. "Then we keep it." My phone lit up. "Ben calling." I declined. Again. "Victoria." Again. "Ben." 11 missed calls that night. I didn't answer a single one. ##### Monday, April 15th, Suffolk Superior Court. I sat at the plaintiff's table with Maria Sullivan and 6 other victims. Mom sat behind us in the gallery, hands folded tightly. Across the aisle sat Gerald Ashford, his attorney, and Victoria. Ben wasn't there. Judge Margaret Brennan reviewed the case. "Mr. Ashford," she said, "explain why 16 properties under your trust all follow the same pattern. Life estate deeds signed during the 2008 crisis, all involving homeowners over 55 with limited English proficiency." Gerald's lawyer stood. "These were lawful transactions. Each homeowner received compensation." "How much?" "Between $15,000 and $25,000 per property." "And the current value?" A pause. "Approximately $8.2 million collectively. So you paid about $20,000 for properties now worth over $500,000 each." "The market changed," he said quickly. "That's investment." Judge Brennan's gaze sharpened. "It's fraud if the owners didn't understand they were signing away title." She turned to Gerald. "Did you represent this as a refinance?" He hesitated. "I may have used that term." "Yes or no?" "I explained it as accessing equity." "Yes or no?" "Yes. But it wasn't a refinance. It was a deed transfer." Silence filled the room. "Tituro granted," she said firmly. "All sales frozen." Then she added, "Full injunction hearing set for May 2nd. Mr. Ashford, produce all documents, emails, contracts." Discovery deadline, April 25th. Gavel struck. At 11:03 a.m., federal agents entered Ashford Development headquarters with search warrants. At 11:47, my phone rang. "Agent Torres." "We're inside." Boxes of records, servers, hard drives. "This is bigger than expected." "How much bigger?" 23 properties. Not 16. And we've got emails between Gerald and the notary discussing document fabrication. Charges. Grand jury in June. Indictment is likely. Arrests after that. That afternoon, the Boston Globe called. "Can you confirm a class action against Ashford Development?" "Yes," I said. "Can we speak to your mother?" "No. But I can give a statement." I kept it factual. 16 families, $8.2 million, deed fraud, FBI involvement. The story broke Tuesday morning. Boston developer accused in multi-million-dollar immigrant property fraud scheme. By afternoon, Victoria called me 32 times. I answered the 33rd. "Charlie, please, you have to drop this lawsuit." "No. My father's company is collapsing. The board wants him gone. Stock is down 40%. That's not my problem. It was business. Your father forged documents. He stole homes from immigrants. That's not business. That's crime. Please." "Ben knew," I said. "For 2 years. And he still let your family humiliate my mother at your wedding. Where is he now?" She broke. "He's at home. He can't face this. He made a choice. So did your family." I ended the call. Wednesday brought more calls. Thursday, the Ashford board held an emergency meeting. Gerald was placed on leave. Victoria was reassigned pending investigation. Friday, 3 major investors pulled their funding from Ashford Development's projects. 2 city contracts were suspended pending investigation. On Saturday morning, 1 week after the wedding, Ben finally called me. I answered. "Charlie," his voice was hoarse. "Can we talk?" "Talk." I said flatly. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I should have told Mom. I should have. You should have protected her, Ben. That's what you should have done." "I know. God, I know. Victoria is filing for divorce. I lost my job. I lost everything." "You didn't lose everything, Ben. You threw it away. Mom worked 3 jobs so you could go to college. She gave up her life for you. And when she needed you most, you chose comfort over her." "I was scared," he said. "I was scared of losing my future. My life. And Mom." I asked quietly. What about her future? What about the house Dad died for? Silence. Is she okay? He finally asked. No. But she will be. Can I see her? I don't know. That's her decision now. I heard him crying. For a second, I almost softened. He was my brother. But then I remembered Mom standing in that reception hall, name tag pinned to her chest, tears in her eyes while he looked away. Ben, I said quietly, I hope you figure out who you are. But for now, stay away from us. I hung up. Ugh. The legal battle lasted 8 months. In June, a federal grand jury indicted Gerald Ashford on 12 counts of wire fraud, 8 counts of mail fraud, 6 counts of elder abuse, and 3 counts of RICO violations. Maximum sentence: 240 years. Realistically, 15 to 20 if convicted. The criminal trial was set for March 2027. But the civil case moved faster. In August, Ashford's attorneys approached us with a settlement. $200,000 per family, deed reversal, and full return of all properties in exchange for dropping civil claims. I brought it to Mom and the other families. What do you think? Mom asked. We might get more at trial, I said. But it'll take years. This gives you your home back now. Most families agreed immediately. They wanted their lives back. Mom stayed quiet for a moment. Your father used to say justice delayed is justice denied, she said. I want my house back. I want to move forward. We accepted the settlement. With part of the money, Mom paid off remaining obligations tied to the case and helped 2 elderly victims cover medical debt. She also joined an elder fraud survivors group at the community center. For the first time in nearly 20 years, I saw her walk differently, shoulders back, head high. Not because of money, because she had been believed. On September 12, 2026, Joyce Rahman became the legal owner of 127 Lexington Street again. The settlement also included something I negotiated: full accounting of profits Gerald had extracted through taxes, depreciation, and appreciation. He was ordered to repay each family their share. For Mom, it came to an additional $342,000. Total recovery, $542,000, plus a house now valued at $748,000. She cried when I told her. Your father's promise, she whispered. We kept it. In October, Mom sold the house. She didn't want to stay. Too many memories. Too many ghosts. She moved to a smaller home in Quincy, near the water. 2 bedrooms, peaceful, manageable. With the remaining funds, she did something I didn't expect. She created a scholarship fund, the James Rahman Memorial Scholarship for Children of Single Parents, $250,000 initial endowment, $5,000 annual awards. Your father worked himself to exhaustion so we could have a future, she said. I want other children to have that chance without that cost. The first award was given in January 2027. 2 years later, April 2028, I was at Mom's house in Quincy for Sunday dinner. Just the 2 of us. Rice and lentils again. The same smell from childhood. Charlie, honey, she said, handing me an envelope. I got something today. Inside was a letter. Handwritten. From Ben. Dear Mom, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know what I did was wrong. I'm working at a union warehouse in Everett now. Loading docks. The same kind of work Dad did. I wanted to understand him, his exhaustion, his sacrifices, what it meant to still come home and be a father. I think about you too. 3 jobs. Keeping everything together while I looked away. I betrayed all of that for a job title and a salary. Victoria and I are divorced. I don't blame her. I don't blame anyone but myself. I'm not asking to come back. I just want you to know I'm trying to become the son you and Dad deserved. I'm learning what Dad already knew. That character is who you protect when it costs you everything. I'm sorry, Mom. I will always be sorry. Love. Ben. Mom folded the letter carefully. What do you think? I asked. She stayed quiet for a long time. I think he's learning, she said softly. I think it's a start. Are you going to see him? Maybe, she said. When I'm ready. Then she looked at me. Are you? I thought about it. About everything. About the silence. About the choice. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe one day. But not yet. That's okay, she said gently. Healing takes time. Oh. After dinner, she showed me something in the kitchen. 2 frames on the wall. One was the old wedding name tag. Joyce Rahman, former household staff/tenant, Ashford Property #47. The other was the deed to her new home. Owner, Joyce Rahman. Why keep both? I asked. To remember, she said. What they tried to make me. And what I actually am. And what are you? She smiled. A woman who kept her promise. A mother who raised good children. A person who survived. She touched my cheek. Your father would be proud. He'd be proud of both of us. Oh. As I left that evening, she walked me to the door. The sun was setting over Quincy Bay. Charlie, she said softly, that day at the wedding, when you took my hand and said we were going home, that's when I knew I would be okay. I hugged her. You always will be, Mom. I know. Oh. Gerald Ashford was convicted in March 2027 and sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. Ashford Development was dissolved. The headquarters was sold for restitution. Linda moved out of state. Victoria started over under a new name. Ben. I don't know exactly where he is, but I hope he's learning. I hope he's becoming someone better. As for me, I'm still at legal aid. Still sitting at kitchen tables. Still translating fear into understanding. Still telling people you have rights even when no one tells you so. Because I learned something from my mother. Real strength isn't money or status. It's standing up when it costs you everything. It's keeping promises when breaking them would be easier. It's knowing your worth, even when someone tries to put a label on you. My name is Charlie Rahman, and I am my mother's daughter. And if you've ever stood up when it was easier to stay silent, say something in the comments. I read them all. Because somewhere out there, someone needs to know. They're not alone. And what was taken from them can be taken back. And dignity. Dignity can never be stolen.